Okay, for this project you want to use washable markers. So these are all non-permanent markers. Even the big Sharpie ones, even though they say Sharpie on them, they're poster board markers. And they will, we want that because we're going to paint water over them and they'll kind of turn into a paint. So figure out which colors you want on your washable markers. And they don't need to be waterproof. If they're waterproof or permanent, they're not washable markers. And you're going to need a black crayon. Now, in your sketchbook, just start drawing the letters of the alphabet, and you can do big letters of the alphabet, capital letters, or you can do lowercase letters of the alphabet, and you're just going to write the alphabet all over your paper. Remember, uppercase and lowercase. Just have fun with it. They don't need to be in a line, they're just going to be sporadic all over the paper. Now, after you've written all of your letters out of the whole alphabet, you're going to go back. This is where you use your markers, your water, um, regular just water markers, washable markers. And you're going to trace not completely over the letters, but around them, next to them. Like the R, I did next to the R, and then on top, the U. So I'm just tracing over everything with my different colors. And I'm sporadically putting those colors around too. And I don't want to trace right on top of my crayon, I want to trace right next to it. Now, if you have a brush, a paintbrush, you can use that. You can also just use your finger. And you want to make sure that you get the letters nice and wet, because we want that bleeding effect. When the marker gets wet, it bleeds. And this is why we don't want the permanent markers, because the permanent markers won't do that. A brush will make it pretty wet, but if you use your finger, just dip your finger in the water a lot and just make sure it's almost like you want to put a little puddle over each of your marker lines. And you'll notice after it sits for a while, it'll start to bleed more and more. And that marker line will turn into almost a watercolor paint. If you want the watercolor markers, or the markers rather, to bleed more and look more like watercolor, I would go back over them again. But if you do go back over them, you don't want to rub them a lot, because then you'll start ripping the paper because it's wet at this point and it'll start breaking down. So you can just tap and pat your finger over it to just create a little bit of a puddle on each letter if you want to add a little bit more water. If you have a watercolor brush, just go over it a couple of times. And then here's your fun Chicka Boom Boom letter painting.